Ladies and gentlemen, it's Too Late with Alan Mosley.
Guys, welcome back for another episode of It's Too Late. I am your host, Alan Mosley, joined as always by the number one producer in late night. It's Blake Osborne.
Number one producer in late night.
Well, you know what? I
try.
I'm never gonna compliment you again. That's what that means.
Well, I guess.
I'm literally sitting here. We're starting the show, and my screen here where I have everything set up literally just went insane.
Oh, really?
And told me that it needs to restart.
See, what we need to do one of these days is we need to get like a feed that comes from that laptop just so we can see what you're really looking at over there.
I mean, the good thing is that it doesn't really matter because, like, I don't need any of that stuff for the monologue. Yeah. But it just, like, you know how you kind of get into a mental place when you're getting ready to perform?
You feel safe and then something just doesn't...
I was in my safe space. That's right. I was in my late night safe space. And Microsoft ruined it. Bill Gates strikes again.
He always ruins things, doesn't he?
He's probably given my computer a vaccine. It's what it's got, and now it's autistic.
Oh yeah,
that's
great,
autistic.
Man. That's just...
Everything's just going wacko. I'm about to just close this. I don't need it. I don't need it.
Are you sure about that?
I don't need it. I know that was a slow answer, but I don't need it. So here's the thing.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people talking about the hashtag laptop from hell that was trending on Twitter, but only barely, by the way.
Okay.
Because there's a big story literally breaking as we speak about Hunter Biden, Joe Biden's son, the crack smoker, not the one that's dead.
Okay.
The one that'll soon be dead, the one that's not dead yet.
Yeah.
And because I've already seen the memes of like Hillary's waiting on him and all that stuff. But anyway, so they've got pictures on him. So this guy, listen to this guy. This is a winner, by the way. This is how you know you're winning, as Charlie Sheen would put it. So this guy, likes to imbibe a little crack cocaine. Likes to do a little crack. Likes to have a little fornication with girls of suspicious age ranges.
Well,
little bit.
I have heard.
And here's the thing, and I'm not condoning any of that activity for obvious legal reasons. Right, but if you are going to do those things, what you don't do is then like take photographic evidence of yourself and then put it on your laptop.
Why would he do
And then, but like there's layers to this onion, right? Okay. And then if you're going to put that photographic evidence on your laptop for, I guess, your spank bank for later. I don't know what you kids do. By the way, I think Hunter Biden's like 50. So if he's older than like 17, he's in yikes trouble now, but he's 50. Then he takes his laptop to like a repair place. Because like there's something wrong with his laptop. So he's going to the Apple store or whatever, saying, "Hey, you fix my Mac." And like, I actually, believe it or not, back in my old business days, when I had the print store, I sublet one of our offices to a guy who did that. He did like computer repair and stuff. Which, by the way, anytime for 90% of people that go to a computer repair place, it's your power supply. Just
so you know.
Just so you know, just go buy a new power supply. You're done. But those people are not like Catholic priests. Like it's not a confessional where you go and you show them your kiddie porn and they just keep it to themselves.
Yeah.
Like that's not what that is.
Kind of like those kids in the 80s that developed your film. Remember that?
Yeah, I do remember that. Like there was, I'm old enough to still remember when they were still developing film, maybe like in the early 2000s-ish.
Yeah.
And people would do that. People would bring in film, and the companies, by and large, would say, it's none of our business what's on the film.
Right.
But if it's just obvious, like if it's just obvious illegal activity and they're just flaunting it, then you got to say something. So that's kind of what this situation is that it's not like doctor-client privilege.
Right.
He's got these pictures, and to be fair, I don't know if the computer place necessarily was like, oh, we're going to do our civic duty. I think it's more they wanted to leak it because, we're going to be famous type thing. But
Yeah,
the motivation's irrelevant. The point being is that it got out.
Wow.
And so there's a couple things I wanted to say about that, because we're not going to talk about it the rest of the show, and we're probably never going to talk about it again.
Okay.
And I'll explain why at the end. So first of all, it's out there, and the fact that you basically can't find it on major social media and corporate press, like, I'm not so naive that I don't know that they don't cheat. Like, trust me, us at this program, we know how the algorithms work, as in they don't work for us.
Yes.
We totally get that.
Yeah.
By the way, we're like a week away from ditching viewer mail because we've lost viewer mail. I'm now having to go out and find people for viewer mail as opposed to the other way around.
You're getting me.
Because people don't see our posts anymore. Pages are dead.
Got
So trust me, I know how crooked social media is.
Yeah.
With that said, I've always kind of operated with this attitude of, well, we all know they're crooked, but like the analogy I gave our friend Suzanne Sherman is, like, if a nuke went off in Houston, they wouldn't tell people in Austin that it didn't happen, because it would be obvious that it happened. Now, they might spin, by the way. They might spin the story to make you think the why and the how. But they couldn't just simply deny it existed, because it's leaked too hard. It's too big.
For sure.
And this is actually a story where we're literally witnessing, as Michael Malice would put it, we're literally witnessing the blue pill being constructed in real time in front of our faces.
Yeah.
That it's out there, and everyone has seen the funny pictures of him passed out with the crack pipe sticking out of his mouth. Now, granted, I don't think they leaked the underage kid pictures, because obviously that's child pornography.
That's bad.
But it's out there. We know this happened. And by the way, the more like prescient political story is the connections of the Ukrainian businesses and Hunter and his father, who just so happens to be running for president of the United States. And how Biden has said, I've never met those people, and yet you have pictures of him standing next to those people. So the point being is that that's more like the political fallout, but the more personal fallout for our dear friend Hunter is, like, if you or I got caught with a laptop that had pictures of us in it doing illegal drugs and like snorting lines off of the ass of a girl who looks like she's 14, we're in trouble.
Yeah.
We're in trouble big time. Like, there's no, it's really kind of a little hard to explain that away. And by the way, the press wouldn't be defending you.
Right.
They would put that crap out there for the whole world to see. Like, even if there was
the poster child of revenge, buddy.
Even if there was a legitimate excuse for you, they wouldn't hear that. They would put it all out there first.
Yeah.
Because that's how the court of public opinion works, right?
Sure,
They put out all the bad stuff first, and then if it just so happens to be found that you're not guilty, that's on the page of like 17D, in the back.
Makes you wonder if it was Trump's son, what they would do.
Oh, I mean, if it were Donald Jr., he'd be drugged through the streets, right? I mean, he'd be in jail right this second, pending indictment, 100%.
Oh yeah.
But the point being is that it happened, and it's amazing how hard they're working to make it go away.
Yeah.
And how you can go on places like Twitter and Facebook. I know a lot of people were talking about the New York Post article from a week ago where you would share it and they would literally just delete it or throttle your account. And they were saying, so Twitter's excuse is that, well, this is unverified right now. So since it's unverified, we're not just going to let unverified leaks propagate.
Right.
Yet, when there's unverified leaks of Donald Trump, say, for instance, his tax returns, they didn't stop them.
Right.
So I mean, wow, hypocrites are being hypocritical. Imagine my surprise.
Wow.
But the point being is that this is so big and so out there that you would think that it's time for them to start spinning the story, not deleting it. But they're just full on deleting its existence. It's amazing.
Yeah.
But this is what I want to conclude with on this, and we're done talking about it. We may bring it back up if, like, Hunter literally gets arrested, or if, like, Joe Biden drops out of the race next week because of the shame, then we obviously would discuss it. But pending that, we're not. And I'll tell you, this is exactly why. It doesn't matter. I mean that when I say it doesn't matter.
Bad. It doesn't
And
matter.
and if someone's like, well, Alan, what do you mean it doesn't matter? Look at blah, 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 blah. No, it doesn't matter. And this is why. The people who were going to vote for Trump would vote for Trump even if he literally walked out on the steps of the White House and blew someone's brains out.
That's right.
They would figure out a way to explain why he needed to do it.
Yeah.
The people who are going to vote for, like, they're actually enthusiastic voters now.
Yeah.
That's who I'm talking about. Like, the people who are like, I gotta, like, the most important thing in my life right now is vote blue no matter who.
Yeah.
Those people are going to vote for Joe Biden because they already know he's got credible rape allegations and he probably has dementia and the touching and the sniffing and the 94 crime bill and everything in between.
Yeah.
Like, they've already swallowed all of that because it's more important for them to be anti-Trump than it is to be pro someone with any dignity or principles at all.
Right.
So they'll swallow this too.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
They'll overlook it like it's no big deal.
It doesn't matter. That's the thing.
Oh, it's not actually Biden. It's just his son.
So you might recall, I mean, probably a month ago at this point, I'd actually said that I wasn't ready to make a prediction just yet on the election.
Okay.
Because there's still, like, both candidates are so terrible. There's still plenty of time for them to one-up each other.
Oh, yeah.
Not in a good way. One up, or I guess one down each other in how bad they can be.
Oh, yeah.
And this is the latest one for the Biden regime.
Uh-huh.
There's still time.
There's still time.
There's still time for Trump to do something insane.
Yep.
Like, we could still bomb Iran or
You got
something
about
ridiculous.
9 days, right?
Yeah, exactly. There's still time. But with that said, I think I'm ready to make a prediction.
Okay. And
I'm going to make that prediction after the break.
Okay.
Don't go away. If you're enjoying tonight's show, consider supporting the program by becoming a member of our Patreon. That's over at patreon.com/Alan Mosley. You ready for that prediction?
I sure am.
So I think despite the latest news,
Uh-huh.
despite the whole Hunter Biden and Ukraine and his dad's ties to everything while he was under the Obama administration, I think Biden's going to win.
Wow. I hope not.
Well, you're wrong because well, first of all, why do you hope not? Because why do you think Trump's any better?
Why do I think Trump's better?
Because I'm setting you up, by the way, because
better,
I'm going to
but
destroy you. But go ahead.
I worry. I really honestly, I worry about that situation, not because of Biden. Biden doesn't scare me. And if it was Biden, who cares? I don't care if Donald Trump or Biden are president. Kamala Harris scares the hell out of me.
Well,
I don't want her to. I saw a meme the other day, and I wish we could pull this up. There's a picture of her holding him in a wheelchair, and she's walking him down a cliff, and then she dumps him over the freaking edge. That's what I'm afraid of. She's crazy. Donald Trump might be mean. Donald Trump might be weird. Donald Trump might say rude things, might be crazy, but at least he's not like kill everybody and put everyone in prison for the rest of their lives. Kamala Harris, she's going to arrest me for being a white guy.
You're right. Trump is only the, take the guns first, due process second. Yeah, he's only that guy.
Yeah, but at least he isn't going to throw me away for being white.
They're not either. You sound like such a conservative boomer.
Yeah.
Just
well,
stop
I
that
can't help
crap.
it. Like I said, I'm a recovering conservative. So
yeah, you are. Yeah, and you sound. By the way, that's the story for next week.
But I'm
so
still
we've got one more episode before the election.
Okay.
So next week's episode is going to be the one where I'm going to talk about why I don't vote and why what you just said is boomer nonsense.
I'm not a boomer.
Because I've seen a very disappointing. Like, you want to talk about how far the liberty movement, which doesn't exist, has fallen. Is you see the people that are carrying so much water for Donald Trump because of how bad a Biden-Harris administration would be.
Right.
And it would be bad.
Yeah, it'd be very bad.
Like, the progressive have you by the absolute balls because they're willing to lose. Like all the bluster, all the we got to get Trump out, we got to restore dignity to the White House, all that BS. They do believe all that.
Yeah.
But they're willing to lose because they win the long game. because we're moving ever leftward every single year, every single election cycle.
And it's like nothing you can do about it.
They're winning. They're not losing. Even if they lose this particular presidential election. I mean, you look at the exploding debt under Trump.
Yeah.
You look at the economy right now, and granted, I understand states closing down is not necessarily his problem, but he's done a terrible job of distancing himself from the COVID crisis, by the way. He could have done a better job in the first. I mean,
oh yeah,
anyone could have done a better job in the first debate. But the point being is that we are moving ever leftward under a Trump regime. There was no draining the swamp. All the swamp monsters got it was an all-you-could-eat buffet. Yep. And as soon as Trump is out in 2024, the Republicans will lose the House. Whoever the Democrat is that runs, I'm willing to bet it'll be a better candidate than Biden, just because, and Clinton and Hillary by that, just because how can you get worse, right? Like,
I mean, imagine it could get worse.
No, I disagree completely. I disagree completely. So Biden is a 50-year political veteran who literally has dementia. Yeah. And Hillary is literally top 5 worst human beings on the planet. So no, it couldn't get worse. You're wrong. Okay. They will find someone like a Mayor Pete. Remember Boot Edge? They'll find someone like a Mayor Pete, and they'll bring him in there. And of course, he's not different in any real terms. But he'll be a little bit younger and a little bit more polished, and he won't be quite as mucked up in the swamp from 50 years in politics like a Biden. And he'll win because the GOP is going to be a dumpster fire as soon as Trump. This isn't even the topic of the show, by the way. It's like, this is your fault. This is your fault. I know. You're supposed to. You can't. I don't know. You got to reel this thing in. I'm still trying to fix this, by the way. and now I'm sitting here talking to you, and we haven't even. Blake. What time is it?
It's time for... Meme of the Week.
Hark! The Archduke's son hath brought great shame upon us. Verily, I doth witness the prince betting yon wench, smoketh crack, and accepteth bribery, all in his father's name. These tidings... transpired not. That, by the way, for people that might not be aware, that last frame looks the best because that looks like Jack from Twitter and Zuck from Facebook. That's why. In case you can't quite see it on the screen, that's why that one looks so good.
The art is beautiful.
That actually. So that was not the meme of the week. The meme of the week was going to be like a Disney thing, but that's just too good.
That's better.
Yeah, I know. That's too good.
Wow. That's exactly how it's going to go down. So, I mean, we're not lying to you. You know.
Well, okay. The last thing I'm going to say about Hunter Biden is I'd said we're not going to talk about it anymore unless like there's a huge development to the story. Right. I think it's over. Like everyone will be outraged for 15 seconds, then it'll be like it never happened because that's how things tend to go.
Yep.
Maybe by this time next week he'll actually be in jail somewhere. In that case, we'll discuss it. But you know what? Just since we were kind of off the reservation there for a bit, maybe next week we'll talk a little bit about. I've got my article about not voting, and that's going to be the main point of next week because it's the last show before the election. So we'll discuss that, and we'll discuss why I don't vote. Okay. Like no matter how much you might want to play that game of, well, it's an imperfect world, defensive voting, all that. So we'll discuss that next week, but we'll save time for Hunter Biden if he's in jail. That's all I'm saying.
True.
Let's answer some viewer mail.
Wow.
I know. Do you like that?
That's excellent.
Well, thank you. I thought you might like that one.
Oh, that was very entertaining.
Suzanne Sherman writes, "Dear Alan and Blake, do you think Zoom will replace Pornhub?" So Suzanne's talking about Tubin, what's his face from CNN. He got caught doing a little expose, if you will. On Zoom when they were having a meeting. So Zoom will not replace Pornhub because the people you're having professional meetings with on Zoom don't look like the people on Pornhub.
No.
That's the only reason why. I mean, I guess you're getting the same kind of content nowadays, but they don't look like the same people. Andrew Avery writes, Dear Alan and Blake, if his meth-addled son makes his political aspirations go to pot, will Biden put a lid on it? Or will he drop a dime? At least Kimmy didn't blow it. Andrew couldn't help himself this week. He was just like, he wanted to fit like all three of those in there in one viewer mail post.
He did good.
So as I said a second ago, despite all of the craziness around that story, no. I don't think Biden's political aspirations have gone to pot, because I think the decideds are decided, and I think the centrist like swing voters probably don't even know what we're talking about right now. They don't watch this show because we can't even reach our own fans.
I know.
So we can't reach them either. So there you go. Let's see who's next. It is Clay Davis, who writes, Dear Alan and Blake, it has recently been mentioned in the comments of your show that It's Too Late needs a field reporter. Does it, and how might the selection process go if so? That's an interesting question.
Have we got a budget? I mean...
Well, so what Clay is meaning to say is, I think what Clay's trying to say is that he wants to be the field reporter. And I would be happy to have Clay be the field reporter too. Definitely. But if you want to make money as a field reporter, you'll either have to go somewhere else. or people who want Clay to be hired as the field reporter for It's Too Late will have to go to patreon.com/Alan Mosley and pay Clay's salary.
That's right, because he would be expensive.
That's the only way. I mean, and I really use the term salary loosely here, because he'll get paid about as much as Rob does and as you do, and which is a handsome sum.
Oh well,
the laughing is ruining it. It's absolutely ruining it.
Yeah, we do this because we're the kindness of our hearts.
Bob Smiley writes, in y'all's opinion, what elected office, local, state, or federal, is the most powerful? So I feel like what Bob might be trying to bring up is like maybe which is more relevant to the actual run-of-the-mill voter. But that's not how he worded. He worded it most powerful. Most powerful far and away is federal, because we live in a federal supremacy. That's what... Like whatever you learned in third grade social studies about the Constitution and the separation of powers and federalism, which, I mean, the answer is you didn't learn anything about that because they don't teach anything in public schools. But if you did, forget all about it. It doesn't exist. Yeah. We live in a dictatorship. It's a federal supremacy. Your state doesn't matter. Your town doesn't matter. What the God King says goes. So that's just how it is. Jeff Johnson writes, Dear Alan and Blake, is there really a man in the moon, or is that just Hunter Biden smoking crack again? People...
These questions are just going to the dogs, aren't
they?
But I'd say no, it's Hunter Biden smoking crack.
Now I'm not even upset about us losing all of our reach on the page, because this is what we get. Like, we used to get, like, actual genuine questions. Like they wanted to know something about you, so they would say, hey, Blake, how about this? Yeah. Now they say, here's the question, but it's actually just shade for my funny remark. These people, go host your own show.
Yeah.
Go host your own show.
Shadow banned like us.
Yeah. So go to the page and let us know what you think so we can ban you. Remember when I used to say that?
Yep, exactly.
It's been a while since I've banned anybody.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there really aren't that many people out to ban because there's really no one seeing us. So, anyhow. Yeah.
I used to. It's been a while.
Yeah.
I mean, I have banned people from the page. I know. But it's been a while.
But now I'm thinking about, why don't you unban them just so that we have some more guests?
No, because to be honest with you, the majority of the people that I've banned have not been wayward statists or commies who have wandered into. It's actually been other libertarians who are just neckbeards to the upteenth degree, and I just go, I can't deal with you.
That's true.
It's true. Finally, Jonathan Caranza writes, Dear Alan and Blake, does Blake breed those velociraptors? If so, can I order some? Blake, do you breed those things?
You mean the South American rheas? They're not velociraptors. They're just big birds.
No, they're I've seen them. They're raptors.
We have 5 eggs so far. So, and we're not actually breeding the birds at this point. We plan to. And when we do, yes, we will sell them.
So I think Jonathan actually has a place out in Washington State, and they've got some animals. So so Jonathan wants a raptor. Can you hook him up?
yeah, we'll let you know when we got a broody male hanging out and getting ready. So
just be warned, this is also the guy that asked us like 17 weeks in a row about skull decorations. So just keep that, file that away.
Yeah,
for your own.
You don't eat rhea. It's not a very good bird to eat.
So Jonathan, there you go. God, we're so far over time.
I know. Isn't it crazy today? We're having fun though.
Are we?
Yeah, we're having fun.
Are we?
I'm having fun. Are you having fun?
I could take it or leave it. We'll be right back after this. Don't go away. Your ad could be playing right now, reaching thousands of potential customers. Sadly, it's not, but it could be. Find out how to be an advertised sponsor for It's Too Late with Alan Mosley. Email us at alan@funnybroke.com.
Yeah.
So, I have a couple of actual stories in the stack to talk about today that have nothing to do with the election.
Okay.
Because
hey, let's take a break from the election, right? Why not?
Let's take a break. Yeah. Let's just take a break here. Let's have a moment. I'm feeling a little like worn out already.
Yeah.
We're like not even halfway through this damn thing. But of course, we're done with the viewer mail, so everyone's tuned out regardless.
Yeah, right.
It doesn't even matter anymore.
Exactly.
No one's watching.
So now you can just be mad. No.
So this show is live, so that's why I can't talk to chat. Because I'm sitting here at the desk. Right. I'm live. Yeah. This is happening in real time.
In real time. For us.
But if I was in chat,
yes.
I would be like checking to see who's still around.
Yes. Okay.
I bet our top fans are.
Yeah.
Like Suzanne and David Wilimowski and
Celeste and Sherry. Mm-hmm.
Celeste.
Yeah.
No, Sherry's not here.
Oh really?
No, Sherry's not here.
Sherry's not here.
Maybe. Lyle Durio's here.
Yeah, Lyle's awesome.
Yeah.
Who else? Dave?
No, that was it.
No, okay.
No, that was it. It's all right. All right, break time over, folks.
Yep, okay.
Why America is experiencing two very different economic recoveries. Okay. So, Blake, that would have been the time to pull up the article when I was reading the headline. Well, it's too late now. You might as well get rid of it. I've already read it. You're the worst. I can't even work with you. So, evidence suggests the disparity in unemployment stems in large part from the different ways states are approaching the coronavirus. You don't say. So this is by John Miltmore over at FEE. Here's a couple of just a few leading off hitters before we get into this.
Okay.
New estimates put the economic losses at more than $16 trillion, and the United States saw its GDP shrink 9.5% between April and June, the largest drop in modern times.
Wow.
While macroeconomic data is useful, it doesn't tell the full story. It's important to understand these economic losses have resulted in severe pain for people around the world, especially the poor. Which, by the way, as Tom Woods has spoken about, as we've talked about on this program, it's so easy to support lockdowns when you're trying to save the lives of like 7 people at risk. But what that totally, like, they always, I say this on the show all the time, don't ever let your opponents have the moral high ground.
Right.
Because that's where they live and breed.
Yeah.
They say, well, we are morally superior to you because we're the ones that care about the plot of the poor, disenfranchised folk.
Right.
And you're just the greedy capitalist pig who doesn't care who you stomp on the way to your filling out, you know, you're the monopoly guy and you've got your sacks of money.
Yeah.
That's just categorically false.
Right.
If these people cared about the poor and dispossessed at all, they would not be supporting those types of policies because the poor and dispossessed are going to be the ones that always hurt in the long run the most.
Yes.
So listen to this. A new Columbia University study shows that 8 million Americans have slipped into poverty since May. Meanwhile, a recent World Bank study projects as many as 150 million people around the world are projected to slip into extreme poverty by 2021. That's, if you only want to look just purely at Americans, that's 8 million. That's people who were firmly in the middle class who are now going to fall under the poverty line.
Yeah.
Just the News recently published a breakdown of state unemployment data for August. Based on the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, the figures showed that nationally the unemployment rate was 8.4%. but the economic pain was not distributed equally across blue, red, and purple states.
Right.
So here's a quote from Carrie Sheffield. In red states, those voting Republican for president in all 4 of the last 4 elections, the combined unemployment rate stood at 6.6%, not 8.4. Among blue states, those that voted Democrat in all 4 of the last 4 presidential elections, the figure was 10.5%. Among purple states, split between 2 or 3 parties, the unemployment figure was 7.8%. The data also shows that of the 10 states with the lowest rates of unemployment, 9 of them have GOP governors. So the point they're making is that the states who had the least restrictive lockdown and mandate measures, the ones who did have measures, the ones who probably opened up the quickest, 9 of those 10 lowest unemployment. However, by the way, the lone exception was Montana. I didn't realize Montana had a Democratic governor, but there you go. While 9 of the 10 states with the highest rate of unemployment are led by Democrats, the lone exception being Massachusetts. Evidence suggests the disparity stems in large part from the different ways states are approaching the coronavirus. Red states, particularly ones like South Dakota, Utah, Oklahoma, Idaho, have been much less inclined to restrict economic freedom during the pandemic. Blue states, on the other hand, most proactive in limiting economic activity in an attempt to limit the spread of the virus. That includes California, New Jersey, Rhode Island, New York, Connecticut. So one might argue, here's a little bit of on the other hand, one might argue that these states could have had high unemployment rates before the pandemic. But the Bureau of Labor Statistics data from earlier this year shows that's not the case. Government figures from January, so before, because I'd say it's probably about end of March, early April when
it really started to hit.
The feces hit the oscillating unit.
Yes.
In January 2020, so that just 2 states had unemployment higher than 5%. Alaska 6.1, Mississippi 5.7. Meanwhile, blue states of California 3.9%, New Jersey 3.5%, Rhode Island 3.5%, New York 4%, Connecticut 3.7% had rates of unemployment close to the national average. Wow, that's talk about exploding. So the data suggests that the economic recovery of many U.S. states is being inhibited by government regulations. Imagine that.
Can you believe it?
Yeah, I know. That's like,
What a slap in the face.
So John is writing very academically here, which I certainly can appreciate, but that's like obvious statement 101 right there.
Yeah.
A recent Wall Street Journal article also recently pointed out that the strong economic recovery in the South is at least partially due to less fear of the virus. Now, that's an interesting point. It's not, because while obviously I'm not a doomer, I'm not a lockdowner, I think the government response to the coronavirus has been absolutely disastrous and unwarranted. I'm not even so much debating the data of the virus specifically today. What I'm pointing out is that it's just categorically true that fear of the virus has been a much more dangerous aspect of the economic recovery and the lockdowns beforehand than the actual results of the virus.
Exactly.
It's been the fear of the virus that has driven policy, not actual data.
Right.
For all the people that say, well, just trust the science is not leading the conversation.
Exactly.
It is fear that has led the conversation. Yes. That's such an important distinction. Just as it is equally important to distinguish that it is not the coronavirus that caused these economic problems. It is government response to the coronavirus that has caused these problems. While it's unclear if these regulations are having a positive effect, New Jersey and New York have the highest COVID-19 death tolls in the country, and Rhode Island and Connecticut are not far behind. The consequences of government-imposed lockdowns have been abundantly clear for months. And by the way, this article is also not going into the increase in suicide rates, the thoughts of suicide amongst young people. When you talk about other diseases, talk about cancer screenings, just general outpatient surgeries, things that have been put off because they were trying to flatten the curve, which, by the way, that basically was never a curve.
Exactly.
The most recent unemployment data are one part of a larger economic picture that shows so far red states are doing a better job of balancing the need to save both lives and livelihoods. We've seen blue states using a pandemic as an opportunity to expand government control, impose excessive lockdowns not rooted in data, favor politically connected groups and allies. You might remember our episode way months ago now when the first stimulus bill came out. We went through line by line the ridiculous amounts of pork.
Oh, yeah.
You know, a good producer would have those episodes pulled up so you could reference people what number that is.
Dude, we would have to plan that ahead of time.
You mean the show's not planned ahead of time?
No, it's live.
Well, yeah, the show is live, but it's planned ahead of time, of course. We have a whole team of writers.
Sure we do.
I swear to God. And demand federal bailouts for decades of poor budgeting instead of taking responsibility and confronting their problems head on. Just ask the 8 million newly impoverished Americans.
Yep.
I tell you what, probably what, in hindsight, like when we look back on 2020, I think the thing that'll probably make me the most raw is that, you know, the feds will continue on. The states will continue on as they always have. The mismanaged ones will still continue deficit spending, as will the federal government. Spending far beyond its means. The deficits will continue to explode. By the way, no matter who's elected president.
Exactly.
The spending's not going to stop. The voters, which, I mean, I have no respect for voters no matter which way they're voting, quite frankly. But voters will not vote for fiscally responsible candidates. A candidate who goes up to the podium who says, I will cut all the things that you want because that's responsible. That guy won't get elected.
Yeah. Exactly.
People want free stuff, but they also don't want to pay for it.
Right.
That's how the cookie crumbles. So those things are not going to change no matter what this data shows. But the real sad thing is that what truly is not going to change is the people that are going to have to bear the brunt of the consequences, whether that day is today in terms of a flagging economy and people slipping into poverty, or whether that day is in the future, be it hyperinflation or, you know, if the bubbles were finally to burst. The people that will suffer will be just the regular folks on the street.
Yeah.
The politically connected, the people receiving the bailouts, the big banks, the major corporations, they're not going to, you know, maybe their bonuses go from $1 million to $750,000 for a year.
Yeah. Or
maybe.
What a terrible loss.
I know, what a terrible loss. That they're not going to feel it.
Yeah. Not like the rest of us.
Not the small business owner who's, you know, taxes are going to go up to pay for this nightmare.
Yeah.
While, whether it's locally or at your state level or whatever, while at the same time you're making a fraction of what you were making in the past because you're either forced to close or no one has any money.
Right.
I wish if there was just one like political thought or theory that I wish I could just snap my fingers and people could absorb, it would be that. It would be that no one in Washington has their best interest at heart. There's no saviors that you can vote for. And you're going to ultimately be the one who's going to have to bear the brunt of the responsibility for their actions.
Yep.
And so maybe instead of trying to pick and choose, maybe you just wipe the slate clean and you don't support any of these jokers.
Right.
Hey, we're back on schedule a little bit.
Good.
Well, there you go. Let's take a commercial break. So we're moving on to a separate segment, but I just so happened to see a headline during the commercial break that in Wisconsin's second largest county, suicides are up nearly 100%.
Wow.
Among young people. That's
jeez.
And medical experts are citing the perils of social isolation. That's That's such a shame.
Yeah.
I mean,
there's other indicators. There's other things that are leading to that too. But I mean, it's just
it's unforgivable.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just that's just what it is. It's that, and our friend Jeffrey Tucker, who's been a guest on this program in the past, you know, he's been leading the charge since day one against the lockdowners and the doomers, and that's something that he has said before as well. Is that when all of this is behind us and we finally get back to normal, just don't forget the people who put us here.
Yeah.
Don't forget the people who supported these policies, and particularly don't forget the talking heads, the parrots in the media who propagated it. Don't ever forgive them.
No.
This is unforgivable.
In a roundabout sort of way, they're murderers.
I mean, yeah. I mean, they've absolutely contributed to so many of the societal ills, and it's just...
Yeah. And they don't care.
Well, of course they don't care. They'll be on to the next thing tomorrow.
Yep.
Anyway, we're moving on. So you might remember Connor Boyack, who author of the Tuttle Twins series and founder of the Libertas Institute out in Utah. He's been a guest on this program before. Sure. And the Tuttle Twins, by the way, has just taken off like nobody's business. An unbelievably successful children's book series. I think they're making an animated series now of the Tuttle Twins. I know we got to have Connor back to talk about that. He came under attack recently.
Really?
So there was a socialist critique of the libertarian children's books series, Tuttle Twins, that actually drives massive surge in sales, which that's really the good news here. The Tuttle Twins series has already sold more than 1.4 million books. How about that?
That's awesome.
I know, that really is awesome.
Yeah.
So this comes from Carrie McDonald, writing again for Fee. As Connor Boyack recently discovered, there's no such thing as bad publicity. The creator of the popular Tuttle Twins children's book series, which reinforces libertarian values and free market principles, saw his book sales surge after an established progressive magazine wrote a lengthy feature article attacking the books. So it's Current Affairs, by the way, for people who are wondering, and you can find that link on Current Affairs. So they published an expletive-laden piece in its July/August print issue calling libertarianism, quote, one of the most disgraceful political tendencies in the world.
Jeez.
So imagine that. So political they don't even call it they don't even call it a philosophy. They call it a political tendency. But imagine thinking libertarianism, which at the crux, the basic core tenet of libertarianism, basically being the golden rule, the non-aggression principle, do unto others. You don't initiate force. You believe in voluntary interaction. So since you believe in individual liberty and voluntary exchange, you are, quote, one of the most disgraceful political tendencies in the world.
That's ridiculous.
My God.
That guy's a disgrace.
Apparently not everyone agreed with the far left writer Rob Larson, so if that's who you're wondering, Rob Larson, who you're looking for, that a political philosophy grounded in individual rights, personal responsibility, and consent is disgraceful. Soon after the article appeared online at the end of September, Boyack noted the record sales of Tuttle Twins books, which have already sold more than 1.4 million copies.
Nice.
This is from Connor. Overall, it's clear the author, a dedicated socialist, has a fundamental disagreement with our values and perspectives. When a socialist calls your free market literature a cliche-ridden heap of steaming garbage, it's not a criticism, it's a badge of honor you wear proudly. It means we're doing something right to provoke this kind of ire from someone who sees liberty as, quote, one of the most disgraceful political tendencies in the world. The magazine took great care to craft its Tuttle Twins critique, including creating custom illustrations to match the style of Tuttle Twins illustrator Elijah Stanfield, who the writer demeans and dismisses because he, quote, produced campaign videos for Ron Paul's 2012 presidential campaign, in case you were thinking of letting him off the hook. Like, that is the only caveat that Rob Larson has with the illustrations, is, well, the illustrations are pretty good, but they were done by someone who supported Ron Paul.
Oh, no.
Anyway, the Tuttle Twins books takes libertarian and free market themes and texts and makes them accessible to children. Yeah. For example, Tuttle Twins Learn About the Law incorporates ideas from Frederick Bastiat's essay, The Law, and the Tuttle Twins in the Search for Atlas highlights the messages from Ayn Rand's book, Atlas Shrugged. There's even a book that illustrates the themes from Fee founder Leonard Read's classic 1958 essay, I, Pencil. The Tuttle Twins and the Miraculous Pencil reinforces the economic principles of spontaneous order and human cooperation. Boyack said he was actually impressed to see that they invested the amount of time they did in developing their harsh Tuttle Twins review, rather than the cursory attack his books got from left-wing media outlet Salon in 2017. These continued condemnations from the left drive Boyack to produce more content and to elevate the book's reach. In fact, last week, Newsweek reported that the Tuttle Twins content will appear as a new animated video series produced by VidAngel in 2021. That sounds really cool.
Yeah.
We need an animated video series.
Yes, we do. We definitely do.
What would we call that?
Frustration?
No, you're probably the least creative person on planet Earth. I was thinking, like The Adventures of Blake and Allen, and then you have a subtitle for that episode.
Sure.
Like,
I don't know.
The case of the Microsoft update. I don't know.
Yeah.
Now I'm the least creative person.
Yeah.
These themes are what Current Affairs article calls libertarian propaganda for defenseless kids. Now, Current Affairs thinks the Tuttle Twins series is propaganda for defenseless kids.
Defenseless kids.
But they're just socialist tripe, and the public education system at large is something to be celebrated. But Tuttle Twins is propaganda for defenseless kids. While obviously not acknowledging that much of what today's public school children... I'm like prescient.
Yeah, I know.
Experience in their classrooms is propaganda from the left. Indeed, as I recently wrote, the nation's teachers' unions have long been deeply connected to the Democratic Party and left-wing ideology, pushing their progressive agenda in both politics and in the classroom. According to Boyack, the left has dominated the education of the rising generation for decades. Teachers see their students increasingly as the front line of battle for the future of our nation. For too long, parents have surrendered their children to the indoctrination of these social reformers. The Tuttle Twins is finally giving parents a shield to defend their kids and a sword to fight back. Our ideological enemy isn't used to facing organized opposition. We present a threat to those who want to continue molding the minds of kids to support socialism. So that kind of reminds me of the, how's the phrase go of, if you keep sending your kids to Caesar, then you shouldn't be surprised when they come back as Romans. Is something along those lines.
That's fairly accurate.
So, God, we have to have Carrie McDonald on the show too. People actually don't know that we're working on a documentary that we're not ready to announce yet, but some of these themes are going to be in the documentary. Definitely. But man alive, it's actually something, I believe this is something, when we did our last AMA back on the old show, before we switched to the late night. We did an AMA, and one of the questions that somebody had asked is that if you had a magic wand and you could shut down like one federally controlled thing or state controlled thing, what would it be? And I said at that time that a lot of people's popular answer would be the Federal Reserve. Sure. Get rid of the Federal Reserve, you're striking at the root of Leviathan, as they say. And I have all the respect in the world for that position. Don't get me wrong. I mean, if I had two magic wands, absolutely, that's number two. But I actually said education. For me, the number one, maybe it's just a personal project or pet peeve of mine, but I've genuinely felt getting rid of the educational establishment and the state orthodoxy of education, having them basically kidnap your kids for 13 years or more, and filling their head with nonsense, and really during the whole pandemic crisis as well, so many parents are kind of getting a upfront view of what's going on at school. Maybe their kids at home doing a remote thing, and they're seeing how class goes. And they're thinking one of two things or both. They're either thinking, A, oh my God, what the hell is this? Or perhaps they're also thinking, B, I could do this. I could do this myself.
Definitely.
I don't need them. And you know what? Both of those are great things to think. Both thinking that the educational establishment is grotesque, and also thinking I could do for myself. I could educate my child.
Definitely.
That's like the silver lining of 2020, I think. And we've discussed that about Corey DeAngelis talking about school choice and enrollment numbers going. We got to get so many people on the show.
I know.
It's been a while since we had a several week run of guests. And I'll tell you why. It's a combination of we kind of do the late night format now, and not everyone is down for that, and that's fine. I don't blame people. And the second reason is that we're unbelievably lazy.
Yes.
And by we, I mean Blake. Blake's the producer, so he's supposed to be the one in charge of that, but he doesn't do anything. He doesn't even watch the show.
I pushed the buttons.
Doesn't even watch the show.
I do
Well,
sometimes.
go ahead and push the last button. We're going to take our final commercial break. Like our Facebook page. It's facebook.com/AlanMosleyTV. You can follow me on Twitter. That's @AlanMosleyTV. Subscribe to our YouTube page. It's youtube.com/AlanMosleyTV. You know what I didn't do this week?
What did you not do?
I didn't tell anyone to go to euthanasia.com, and I didn't, despite there being plenty of opportunities to. I didn't tell that Rob Larson guy to.
Yeah.
I didn't tell Hunter Biden to, or any of the political establishment.
Yeah.
But I was trying to be really careful because last week, I got pretty hot last week.
You did get hot last week.
And
I remember that.
We were talking about a bunch of R words who think they can vote their way out of this mess.
Yes.
And then they call themselves libertarians and intellectuals, that's a big yikes right there. So next week's going to be a good show.
Good.
This one was terrible, but next week,
It wasn't. It's a pretty good show.
this is the time of the show where I tell everybody, look, guys, I know that wasn't our best effort. just give me another week. Just give me another week, boss. We'll do it.
Hey, look, the Tuttle Twins thing's sharp, you know? And honestly, that Hunter Biden thing's gonna turn into a real fun circus, hopefully.
I don't think it will. I think we're done. I think it won't even be in the news by this time next
You know,
week.
I have a question for you.
What?
You know, they're getting ready to do that presidential debate here in Nashville in a couple of days.
Yeah, at Belmont.
That's like tomorrow night, right?
Yeah, at Belmont. Yeah.
At Belmont, which is right in downtown Nashville.
Yep.
And now they got a mute button. You seen this mute button
Yep.
thing?
Uh-huh.
So what do you think? What do you think? They're gonna mute Trump the whole time? Every time he
No.
goes, but I have.
They clearly won't.
Yeah.
They're only going to mute him if he starts just flagrantly violating
Like
the
he did last
rules
time.
like he
Yeah.
did last time.
Yeah.
But they're not going to just mute him the whole
Okay.
See, you're being such a boomer
No,
con
I'm not.
again.
But I
Jesus
think,
Christ.
I think that they're going to use that mute button so much that
Nope.
it's going to become irritating.
No,
On
they're
both
not.
of them, not just, but on both of them.
No, they're not. They're not going to use the mute button very much. The debate's going to be a lot more muted than the last one, but no
Yeah.
pun intended. No matter who wins the election, there's not going to be any great doom and gloom. There's not going to be any secession movement.
Nope.
Life is going to go on, and the Rona
gonna
will
be the
magically disappear in a few weeks. I just told you the future, ladies and gentlemen. If you don't believe that, you just haven't been paying attention. Get over the
People's
boomer con
attitudes will
nonsense.
Get better, finally.
What? I think I was talking, Blake.
Yeah.
Could you just cool off for like 5 seconds?
Yes, this whole.
You've been spouting
making me
boomer
crazy.
nonsense like this entire
Making me
episode.
crazy.
I swear to God. I know why. It's because you don't even watch the show. And
Hey.
your opinion hasn't changed at all because you don't even watch the show.
I don't know about that.
You don't even watch it. Guys, thank you so much for listening to another episode of It's Too Late with Alan Mosley, and we will see you next week.